Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Steve Knipping.
I enjoyed this so much. This is a really fascinating, wide-ranging conversation.
Steve is the current president of the Rotary Club of Kitchener.
Yeah, we talk about homelessness and mental health and finding work that makes a difference.
Here he is, Steve Knipping.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Do you enjoy Bonn Park podcast?
If so, we would really appreciate it if you
Leave a review,
like, rate, subscribe, but most importantly,
share directly from the platforms
with your family and friends. That's the best way to get the word out to everybody, and more people will get to see our show that way. So click those like buttons and share our show. Thank you.
Thanks.
On with the show. This is it. Bonn Park is supported by Pickles A. For almost 20 years, Pickles A have been making small batch preserves with a focus on local and ethically sourced produce. If you care about where your food comes from and how amazing it tastes, you'll love Pickles A. They've got dill pickles, bread and butter pickles, pickled turnip, pickled beets, both red and golden, pickled garlic and garlic scapes. Mustards, jams, relish, chutneys are also on offer at Pickles A. Find Pickles A products at local stores including Zero Waste Bulk, Legacy Greens, Descendants Brewery, Memes Cafe, and other specialty food shops. Find them on social media or go to their website picklesa.com to learn more. That's pickleseh.com to learn more. And for the month of March, you can get 10% off your online order when you enter the coupon code BONPARK at checkout. At our house, pickles are a favorite food, and my whole family loves Pickles A. Small batch, homemade, Canadian. Bonn Park is supported by Henry's Tempeh. Perfect for all diets, including vegan and gluten-free, Henry's Tempeh will make any meal pop. Preparing a healthy plant-based dish made easy. Try Henry's in jerk seasoning, tempeh tacos, or a savory coconut curry tempeh dish. Marinate it, grill it, fry it, grate it, toast it, steam it, bake it. Prepare it any way you want with any combination of flavors. Henry's has been making handcrafted tempeh from organic local soybeans for nearly 20 years. Tempeh has twice the protein of tofu and is high in dietary fiber, and Henry's makes tempeh seasoned with fresh basil or sweet red peppers, among other delicious ingredients. Find Henry's tempeh at Vincenzo's, Goodness Me, Full Circle Foods, Fiddleheads, Farm Boy, and Food Basics. Check out their products at tempeh.ca and follow them on Instagram and Facebook. We are supported by Spice of Life Gourmet Hot Sauce. They say variety is the spice of life. Well, we say Spice of Life has variety. These sauce gurus make their products in small batches with all natural ingredients, and you can taste the difference. If you're a brave spice lover, you can try their Million Plus Plus. Their diabolical blend of scorpion and ghost peppers have milder taste. Their not so hot sauce is made with fresh jalapenos and goes perfect with pizza, nachos, and even in guacamole. And their Holy Smoked sauce has won awards for its habanero-based twist on a West Indian sauce. Find Spice of Life Gourmet Hot Sauce at PharmaSave Waterloo Wellness Pharmacy and check out their products at spiceoflifeselections.com and on Instagram and Facebook. Bonn Park is supported by Gifted in Waterloo. Gifted has some of the quirkiest, funkiest, and coolest gifts you'll find anywhere, like tea infusers, mugs, cozy reading socks, plant pots, cushions, and throw blankets, along with amazing puzzles and games. Want the perfect gift for that hard-to-buy-for special someone? Whether you're looking for something nerdy, literary, cute, funny, bizarre, local, nostalgic, or unexpected, Gifted has it. Among all the unique items from around the world are amazing creations by local artists, along with one-of-a-kind greeting cards. You're bound to find what you're looking for, even if you have no idea what you're looking for, at Gifted. Shop online at giftedwaterloo.com and check them out on Facebook and Instagram. Like pre-pandemic, I was a lot more fastidious about where everything was when somebody was coming over and how tidy my house was. But now it's just like, same like, you know, in Zoom meetings, we should save this actually too, but in Zoom meetings at work, we all made an effort up until about 4 months ago. And now it's like hoodies, ripped jeans, like maybe my hair is brushed. We've all just given up.
Yeah, people are tired.
People are
just
tired
of it.
So Steve Knipping, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Do you like that? How I just went right into it there? Scared you?
Yeah, you caught me off guard. I am scared.
Got to pull up your notes.
Sarah, how did you and Steve meet?
That's a good one. I'm gonna take this and I'll tell my memories, and then maybe you shouldn't tell all of yours. So I worked for Steve or with Steve at MTE Consultants when I was a baby. 18, 19 years old. I worked at MTE and started as a file girl, and then answered phones, and then started filing drawings, and then making copies, and then upgraded my way somehow into using AutoCAD. And Steve was a CET and designer there at the time, project manager, I think you were, and
designer to start, and then up to project manager. Yeah.
And then you left us.
I did. And
you went over to Walter Fady. And then a few years later, I came to work there too. And everyone said, "You're going to work with Knipping, aren't you?" And I said, "No, actually, it's Greg Hummel, and there's this landscape department. It's going to be creative." And then, I just ended up working for you eventually anyway. And then over the years, you've hired me to take photos of your family. And that's been a lot of fun because I got to see your family grow up a little bit.
Yeah, what year did you start? I don't really remember you starting.
1996, youngins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I started in 1990, and I don't remember sort of the first time we met, but I know by the time I was working, I'll say with you more, you were already in the CAD side of things. So I remember that a lot. And then Gary Williams, and you and I hung out, you and Gary more so, but you and I hung out a little bit with Gary, and lots of good times. He was quite a character. I really miss Gary.
Me too. It's one of my biggest regrets. Like, I'm back with MTE now. I've been there almost 5 years now. And I often think to myself, geez, if Gary could see me, he'd think, oh yeah, now that I'm gone, you're back? Really? Really? This is how we're going to play it? He was a force and a character, and very important in my life. Greatest smile, twinkliest eyes.
Yeah. And the nicest handwriting I've ever seen on anyone.
I know. His handwriting was like my grandmother's, impeccable cursive. Yeah.
And then he'd do his Jack Nicholson impression, and
that's good stuff.
He used to host a lot of the Christmas parties. Like, he was just hilarious.
He was like our MC, and he was great.
I really enjoyed my time there. A lot of good people there. I still keep in touch with Jeff a little bit, and you obviously. And then I just had another opportunity, and I do remember the last thing you said to me though before I left was, "Always wear a belt with your jeans."
I did say that.
And I always have.
It's a fashion state. It's important to keep those dad jeans up with a belt, and even if the belt is just for show, it's important. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've always worn a belt in the last 20 years now.
That's awesome. So Marshall was asking me, and Marshall will let you talk eventually for sure, but Marshall was asking me, what does Steve do? Like, how do you guys know each other? And I said, well, he's a CET, and he's been a partner of an engineering firm, and he is now the president of the Rotary Club. And, just somewhere along the line in your retirement, which congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
From the private sector of engineering, somewhere along the line, we reconnect. You found Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm in there a little too much. And that's how we found each other. And we started to chat that way. And it was really nice to reconnect.
Yeah, it's been kind of weird. So one of the things I found with the Rotary Club and Rotaries in general is they haven't really embraced social media. And we have a little bit of an older club, so essentially no one's embraced social media. And everything you hear from Rotary International and other clubs that are doing well is, that's just how you reach people. That's what they listen to. That's what they go to. So I took another little step out of my comfort zone and started with Instagram. And then I have a little Twitter account that I started. And as I was saying earlier, I started.
You retweet our tweets. Thank you very much.
Yes. Yeah, I've listened to 3 now. They're very good, actually. I listened to JP, and I listened to Amy Ballantyne. That was really good. Started following her. Mm-hmm. And I listened to the
AJ, yes. Ajira Orgene.
She's going to come speak at our Rotary Club in a couple, 2-3 weeks or something. So.
Yeah, that'll be a great session. She's very captivating. She's amazing. She's got a great story. Mm-hmm.
When I was reading about the Rotary Club online, I think about how I'm really impressed by these organizations that have such a strong mission statement and values that they outline that seem like they're really rooted in history for decades. And is that what? Tell me about when you first came to the Rotary Club and how you saw that club and how you thought about the history of that club.
Yeah, it's interesting how everyone has a different sort of way to finding a club. So I had been involved with Junior Achievement for a number of years. I was on their board and helped them organize various fundraising events. And what drew me originally to Junior Achievement was it was sort of a proactive approach to it. It's all about business education for students. So it was something that would help them, before they were in debt over their head or before they were in trouble. It sort of took the bull by the horns. And I was, like I said, there about 10 years, and then I needed a bit of a break. And then a friend invited me to the Rotary Club. And I was really just, as much as anything at that point, looking for, I guess, a sense of belonging or a community, something outside of, family and work. I was, how old would I have been? I was early 50s when I joined. So from a business networking point of view, it was sort of a bonus, but it wasn't, the main reason I joined. I just wanted to give back to the community and have that sense of community in the club, which our club, it's not a huge club. We're about 40 people, but it's very close. We refer to each other as family a fair amount. So it's a really close-knit group. The history, though, Marshall, you're right, is certainly there. Like Rotary International started in 1905. So it's been around forever, and it's probably not as well known as it should be, given the length of time it's been here and the number of things it's been involved with over the years. So, we've been trying to, and that's part of this, is just trying to promote Rotary in general in the region. There's 5 different clubs in Kitchener-Waterloo, and we each have the same set of values and, have the same overall goals. We just do things slightly differently. Some are, like, we're a breakfast club, some are lunch clubs, some are dinner clubs. Our focus is a lot more on children. Some others have different areas that they focus on or different way they raise funds. But there's a long history of beliefs and values that Rotary has. And it does become it's almost a core or a belief of a way to live your life. They have this thing called the 4-way test that you're supposed to apply to any situation. So is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And, if you kind of take those guidelines and start applying them in different situations, it's a pretty good, points you in a pretty good direction at the end of the day. So.
What is that actually? I'm just thinking now, like, I should apply that 4-way test to just decisions I make in my personal life. So now I'm thinking about you. What have you taken from that? Do you apply these, like, so you've been doing it for a number of years now. So you said you joined when you were about 50. So I'm not going to age you, but you've been doing it for a number of years now. Yeah. So have you found that you can apply this to your personal life?
Yeah. I'll be honest, it doesn't pop into my head every time I go to make a decision. I have trouble actually remembering all 4 of the points. So you should get to the truth and is it fair? And then I can't remember the last 2. So, it's not probably subconsciously, like not consciously. As I said, I don't think about it every time I make a decision, but it just gets you in that mode and you're dealing with like-minded people in your own club or in the district, which is sort of the next level up. And you just start to, sort of have those values and apply them as you go through life. So the thing I found, and I think that I've been trying to promote a little bit for Rotary, is it's more than, just either an opportunity to give back. So a lot of people will join because they want to, give back to the community, whether it's financially or they want to do hands-on projects, or they, the one thing that Rotary has is an international component to it. So we do projects in Rancherias, which is in Nicaragua. Our club supports a village down there. So there's that part of it, but there's also a chance, and this is what we're trying to use to attract some younger members, is there's a chance for leadership and mentoring. So we have a bunch of different committees. You can be president of the club. There's a district level. You can get involved with that, which also has all those kinds of leadership and management training kind of components. And then there's just the fellowship part. As I said before, you just get to know another group of great people. And there's the service part. And then there's the Yeah, sorry. The last one is the networking. So the originally Rotary was started for networking. It was Paul Harris was a lawyer in Chicago, and he just got a bunch of other businessmen together, and that's how they started the club. So, the quick summary is there's networking opportunities, there's social fellowship opportunities, there's leadership management kind of opportunities, and obviously there's just service opportunities to give back to the community. So,
yeah, what I want to ask about the Rotary Club was, I've seen how something like the Stamp Collectors Club of Kitchener-Waterloo, they find it challenging to bring in new blood for whatever reason. Stamp collecting and coin collecting as well. It's something that's hard to bring in younger people into this. Is the Rotary Club similar in that way, that you find it's not really on the radar of people in their 20s or 30s?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, and I guess I don't really know why. I think part of it is awareness, which again goes back to me trying to, my 3 followers on Twitter, trying to change the world.
To start somewhere,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's just a general awareness issue, and to combat that a little bit, as I mentioned earlier, we've got 5 clubs in Kitchener-Waterloo, so we formed sort of a 5-club public relations committee where we want to just promote Rotary in general in the region to people. And from there, then they can go to whatever club best suits their needs for various reasons. I think part of the challenge too is the younger generation, they're not really into committees and meetings, and they just want to do things, right? So I've heard an example of a Rotary club that wanted to donate books to a third world country, and they were going to form a committee and do all of these normal, well, I shouldn't say normal, what my age kind of people would do to organize something. And one of the younger members just got on the computer on the weekend and through Twitter and other connections had the whole thing done by Monday, and the books were on the way, right? And the other guys were still trying to make a committee, and what night should we meet? Well, I'm busy that night and I can't meet this night. So, we're trying to as I said, just up the profile and sell some of the other aspects. It's not just about giving back, which is a key part of it. They all are, but there's other aspects to it. And, there has been some good things, I think, come out of the pandemic, few and far between. But one of the things I think when we go back to being able to meet in person is we'll end up having a in-person meeting with a Zoom or a virtual option. Whereas we would have never done that before. How could we do that? That won't work. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to have to. And I think it's a great option for people. Like I don't know about you, I find it great that 5 minutes before a meeting, I can still be running around and I don't have to drive there. I don't have to worry about the weather, all of that kind of stuff.
We don't even know if you're wearing pants.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I did shower today, though.
That's good. Me too. Check marks for us. That's something that, like technology has definitely been something that the older set has had to embrace for sure. And even just speaking for me and Marshall, like we were both very resistant about moving to Zoom for recording podcasts. This was not our format. We like to meet the people. We usually hug them at the end. Sometimes they stay for a beer, or a cup of coffee, whatever that might be. And Marshall, you were like, no way, Sarah, not happening. Yeah. We're not recording remotely. But there came a point where we thought, okay, we really don't have any other option. We can continue this creative project and keep our momentum, or we can just let it fizzle out because we didn't feel like embracing that technology that comes so naturally to younger people.
Yeah. And I've got a few years on you. So when you say younger, it's a lot younger.
I know, Steve, I'm 45 this year.
Ooh,
I know.
I'll be 60 in about a month. So.
Oh yeah. Great. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Yeah. I think when people realized the pandemic was going to last more than just a couple of months, it was either get on board or the bus is leaving and you're not on board. And I remember even at Walter Fady before I retired, we talked about people working at home, and it was like, no way, like that'll never work.
Well, I remember talking about that I had I was on the CAD committee at Walter Fady, but then I was on this other subcommittee with sorry, I'm probably going to take this out, but it's Dylan, Elliott, and Steve
Hales.
I was thinking Hayes, but that's not it because I know it's Al Hayes. Yeah. Steve Hales. Yeah. And I remember even just like Steve's BlackBerry was buzzing during our meetings. And I was like, dude, do you need to get that? Like that is irritating. We're
Yeah.
trying to talk here with our little committee. we were trying to bring that into light in, when was this? 2003. We're like, we need to start to let go of your desk. You can move to different offices. You can work from home. And everyone was like, no way, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I don't think anyone would have done it if it wasn't out of just a complete necessity.
Yeah, you're forced to do it,
Yeah.
right? And I, from what I understand, like within 3 weeks, they had 200 people working at home. And when I was there, it was like no way it was going to happen. Same idea with the desks. I remember going to architects in Toronto where they just have these long tables, and you came in every day and you sat wherever you sat, and you had a little cart that that you pushed around, and no more pictures on the walls and all of that other stuff. So it's just a different way of working. And you're right, the youngers, let's say 20, 30, just what they've grown up with, and it's just natural to them. So I'm glad you guys decided to move on to Zoom, because it's going to be a while, that's for sure.
It's definitely going to be a while. Speaking about technology and having young people join your organization. Yeah. So we're working on a 2-part episode with the girls that work with Technovation, and it's 2 young girls in town, Leah and Ellen, who have created an app that, through Technovation, who have created an app that brings donors and whoever's in need, and the organization that's in need, together, and they bridge that gap. And these are kids that have made this. I'm talking, they're in 9th grade.
Grade 10.
Sorry, they're in grade 10 this
Wow.
year. Of course, we're in and this app is up and moving, and they've tested it for long-term care facilities. They've had mentors through the program, through this organization. These are children that have created this. Maybe what you need to do as a call to action is to reach out to these groups and be like, who wants to do this, for a philanthropic cause, and show us how to use this technology to teach. We'll teach you the cause, and you teach us how to make it work out there in this new world.
Yeah, because even with the social media, so the Rotary Club itself, as well as I, has a Twitter account and Instagram and Facebook, and we struggle to come up with things to post, whereas young people just have more to post than they seem to know what to do with. Oh, this is my new pair of
teenagers.
shoes.
Yeah, you should see the things that they Snapchat to each other.
Steve, I think about how it's one thing to kind of find a place and invest your humanity in your own community, but I'm always blown away by groups of people who will do something like you mentioned, that Nicaragua project, who care about something on the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. And how do you think that comes about, that people go beyond their own community that they live in and then look to some remote place that basically most people aren't thinking about day to day?
Yeah, it's really amazing. And I'll answer the question eventually in a roundabout way. So a couple things for me I have 2 daughters, Lauren and Danielle. And Danielle, when she was in University of Waterloo second year, she took kinesiology, and she was having trouble finding a co-op job. But there was this one in Tanzania that she applied for, Art of Tanzania. It was a not-for-profit little group that did training in AIDS education for young people. So she applied for that, and she got it, and she went to Tanzania for 4 months. Then she came back and she was home. She did another school term, and then she went for 8 months. And she was completely different when she came back, especially the first time. She had come back right at Christmas, when, of course, materialism is at its height in our area. And she was in Dar es Salaam, which is the capital of Tanzania. And, materialism wasn't a thing there. Survival was the thing, right? So, it's those kind of events that kind of raise awareness, I think. In our club, we had a member join that over the years had been down there through his church and through some work initiatives, and we started donating money to build houses. And again, keeping in mind perspective, a house down there is $5,000, so it's the size of my kitchen, so it's relative. But so I had retired in September, and I had the chance to go in October or November of 2019. So 4 of us went down, flew to El Salvador, then we flew to the capital, then we flew to Chinandega, and then you drive to Rancherias. And it's kind of life-changing stuff. And, you see them, they're always smiling and they're always happy, and they have, relative to us, just nothing. And the smallest things can change their lives And I think it's that old saying of, you start out wanting to give to help other people, and it usually ends up helping you more than it helped them. We met a little boy down there who couldn't go to school because he didn't have a pair of glasses. So we chipped in and bought him a pair of glasses for like $30, and it changed his life, right? We bought a bed for someone. We helped build a couple of the houses, but most of it was done with the local trades. We really just got in the way more than I think we helped. But they're all just very happy, and it changed your life, changed my life just a little bit about what I complain about. My biggest complaint is I can't hit a golf ball straight, and they're trying to survive, right? It just doesn't feel right to get upset. When I hear people upset about being forced to wear a mask or something, it just, you lose the perspective. And what I find a challenge out of that is that we have just as many needs in the local community, but they're not as sexy or as exciting, right? It's not the same as flying to another country and doing all those things, but they're just as important. Obviously, they're just, I don't know if they're hidden or they're just not brought to light as much. And once a year, we go to St. John's Kitchen, and we usually break up the bread for them to make their Christmas dinner for the homeless people. And so we usually get there at about 7. We break the bread, and then the people that have been out all night start to come in for their normal breakfast, right? And just, you see the number of them coming in, and it's like, it just is flabbergasting, because it's not a world I live in, right? I have this bubble of what's the word? Just normalcy, I guess, or comfort, and that doesn't exist for them. And it's hard to raise that awareness. What I've tried to focus on, and it hasn't gone very well because of the pandemic this year, is getting people out to do service projects. It's one thing to write a check, and the money is certainly appreciated and it's needed, but it's another thing to hand that guy in the street a loaf of bread, or we delivered food hampers for House of Friendship for a couple of years now, and the first time Leanne and I did it, we thought, oh, we'll do 4 or 5 in the morning, and then we'll go out for lunch and make a bit of a. And by the time we got done seeing where some of them were living in the conditions, like we didn't go out for lunch. Like, we just felt guilty spending the money on lunch when others were in that position. So to get back to your original question, how do you raise that awareness, or how do people connect with across the world? I think it's just sort of a grapevine kind of thing, Marshall. We've had a bunch of speakers in our club as well, of university students that have gone over there and started up these things from scratch, some sort of an outreach program. One of the speakers had worked in an operating room, and this lady was having a baby, and not to be too downer, she ended up bleeding out and dying, and they had no equipment in the room, like nothing. So she started this program where she puts together these little, I'll call them operating kits, where they just have the basics in there, maybe a pair of scissors and some gauze and a few other different things. And then she ships them over. And, you end up walking out of there feeling like you've done nothing in your life. And this kid is 25 and is already changing the world. And we've had a bunch of those examples. So it just sort of is just sort of a word of mouth thing, I think. I don't know what possessed Danielle to go over to Tanzania at that age. Mom was not too thrilled about it, but it
ended up shaping who she is as a person, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And us too, I think, to some extent, right? Just she never was a very materialistic kid, and she really is not now. Like, I have a pair of jeans, why do I need another pair of jeans? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's interesting. And that's the part where certainly the receiver gets something out of it, but the person doing the service gets way more out of it, I think.
We do talk about that a lot on our show. It's a recurring theme, because we do talk about community so much, and really the answer to everything is being involved in giving back to, taking from, leaning on, lifting up your community, right? That's sort of the answer to everything, even if it is your bubble, even if it is your small bubble. But it sounds like your organization does actually reach outside of that bubble and affects the community at large. What are some of because I know Rotary Club helps, you do a lot to help children's needs in our area, in the region. So what are some of those organizations that you guys are supporting? And how so? Like, I know you do fundraisers and there's, like you said,
Right.
like events and stuff like that, but how is that relationship maintained?
Yeah, so the big one locally is the Kids Ability Center, which used to be called something different. But the Rotary clubs in the area are the ones that started the Kids Ability Center. We funded it originally, the one up on Davenport, and got it running. So each of the clubs still makes an annual donation to the Kids Ability Center as well. And then there's usually the 5 clubs will get together and organize, we call it a fun day that they have right at the Kids Ability Center. So a lot of the children that go there wouldn't do well at a regular fair or fall fair. That's where the noise is, and different lights and different things. So we do a version of a fall fair that is user friendly for that particular audience. And so that's one of the things we do. We have 2 committees. We have an international allocations committee and a local allocations committee. So after we've done our fundraising, we divide up the money. Some of it goes to Kids Ability, and then some of it goes into each of those 2 pots. So for the local allocations committee, we give a lot to various schools in both the Catholic and the public school board. Anything from money for a basketball hoop out in the playground to playbooks for kids to do homework on. It's quite a wide range, and every year we have one special meeting where all of the people that are getting the donations come and they tell us about their projects, and it's really can be quite emotional when you hear some of them come back year after year and the difference that it has made in their lives and in the way they can teach. The one school teaches kids that are quite physical, and like teachers were getting broken arms and that sort of stuff. So they had a request in for some different kinds of padding on the wall and different kinds of lighting that would just calm everybody down. And it was night and day difference. They went from, I don't know the numbers, like say 300 physical abuse incidents for the teachers getting hurt to like 3 within a year because of these changes that were made. So a lot of it goes to that. And then a lot of it goes to just the local organization. So for example, Pride Stables, we support a horse out there that the kids will ride on. We give money to Send Them Off Smiling. I don't know if you've heard of them. Mm-hmm. They do the backpacks. So we help actually pack the packs, and we give money for that as well. Nutrition for Learning, we support. There's 2 other ones. There's a club that runs at Chicopee that does run ski clubs for kids with physical disabilities, and then there's a hockey team. I think they're called the Kitchener Panthers that we support, which is also for physically challenged kids as well. So that's just a few of them, but there's probably a good dozen to 15 or better every year. Normally, our giving, the local allocations is usually around 50 or 60 grand that we would give away, and internationally we'll give away maybe 30 or 40. And then the Kids Ability, we give. This year's a little bit less because we could only have one of our fundraisers this year. Mm-hmm. But normally we would give Kids Ability 35 or 40,000,
That's
depending.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it does make you feel good. The fundraisers we have, one is called Skate 48, which is an all-day. I wouldn't really call it a hockey tournament. It's like you MTE will play Walter Fady, for example. Mm-hmm. We each get together a team. There'll be some fundraising. The winner of the game gets to eat steak or chicken wings, and the loser has hot dogs, and everybody gets a prize. So that's a big fundraiser. We usually get over 100,000 out of that one-day event. And the other one we do is the Mud Puppy Chase, which I know, Sarah, you've run in at least once.
We ran into each other there. That's right. I ran that with my family. Well, we jogged it. I mean,
you walked it, yes.
there was some walking and jogging happening. Yeah.
It gets a little crowded, so we couldn't have that one this year. But that one usually raises around 50 to 60 grand. We'll get 12 to 1,500 out. That one's a little more focuses on the money as well, but it's also focused on just getting the kids out to be involved in a physical activity, and then
for a cause,
right, and camaraderie. And last year I got to deliver. The kid that raises the most money gets a gift certificate for a bike at Ziggy's, and so I got to deliver the gift certificate to him, and he was maybe grade 1 or 2, nonverbal, and just went up there to hand it to him, and it was very emotional. It was, the smile on his face, and the way all the other kids supported him. My generation could be kind of cruel to kids that didn't look like you or sound like you, but this group was amazing, and the way they supported him, and it was pretty cool. It's a neat feedback, because the events can be kind of stressful, and they're a lot of work to organize and get going. But if you get out and you see the impact it has, it just motivates you to keep going.
That's a beautiful thing. Sorry, do you mind if I do something? Sorry, Marshall. I just wanted to say something quick. First of all, it's a beautiful thing to know, like, here you are, grinding and trying to get this fundraiser done, and you have so many moving parts. And actually, when I ran into you at that mud puppy chase, I think you rolled up in like a Polaris, and me and my family were going I was like, where's the sign up booth? I'm like, Steve Knipping in an all-terrain vehicle. This is insane. But I just remembered something when you were talking about all the different causes and things that you've done. Is you were the first person that got me volunteering. I'm still volunteering, and it's because of you. So when I worked for you at Walter Fady, you had a program where you would cover the sponsor hours. So whatever it was that you were going to do, cover the volunteer hours or sponsor the volunteer hours. So whatever it was that you were going to get involved in, Walter Fady would pay those hours to the employee, and that employee would go and give back to the community. And I was actually volunteering for the Strong Start program, which we talked to Jennifer Scotchmer about, because she was a program coordinator for that. And that just opened my eyes to, oh, this feels good. I like this. Yeah. I like giving back. And I haven't stopped volunteering since then. And that's because of you, Mr. Knipping.
Good for you. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Walter Fady's been very good that way. They've continued that, and they've expanded it. We always used to do a lot of stuff for United Way at Walter Fady, and which was a great organization. At some point we switched it to, we would let the staff decide every year, which charity would get the money that we would raise. So
I do remember one year for United Way, we all sponsored the IT department to recreate the scene in The Office, the movie, where was it called The Office?
Yeah, Office Space.
Office Space, to recreate the scene in Office Space where they beat the heck out of a bunch of printers with sledgehammers and bats. And that was a beautiful thing to watch the IT department do.
Yes, that was fun.
That was fun. I cut you off though. Sorry. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say that the staff will narrow it down to 3 different charities they would want to support. And then they would come in, each of those charities, make their presentation. Staff would vote, and whoever won got the funds for that year. So they've always been very good and very big on supporting the community and the arts and all of the different organizations out there. So good. I'm glad to hear you're still doing it. That's good.
Still am.
Steve, I want to ask you about your perspective on St. John's Kitchen. So I'll tell you what I've observed there, just in a bit of time I've been there. I used to think that homelessness and mental illness went kind of hand in hand, that if you were on the street, then you had mental illness. And I'm talking about names I would see for years, like Martin Tarback and Rob Michalowski and Mojo, Maurice Dorian, who's a busker. But then I remember being in there one time, and on the chalkboard, somebody had written, "Not all who wander are lost." And I remember after meeting Mojo, who was a pretty happy-go-lucky busker, who I spent quite a bit of time with on several occasions. I'm not certain if Mojo really was suffering in the ways that I thought maybe all street folk do. And he loved busking, and he loved playing music. And he just seemed to have a real joy and like a twinkle in his eye, like a mischievous little twinkle in his eye. Like he just loved a good laugh and having fun. And it kind of got me thinking that maybe there's just people who just fall through the cracks in our society. And it's not always mental illness, but rather they just end up on the street for other reasons. Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a big topic. I think, I guess, a number of thoughts. A lot of people, I think, look for sort of one magic bullet to solve all of those kinds of, whether it's mental health or homeless or addiction. There's a number of them, and the world is too complicated, and our community is too complicated to just do that and fix it. Oh yeah, if we gave everybody, this magic thing, then everybody to have a home and nobody be addicted. And as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more, I guess, aware and understanding of people in those situations and how they got there, or how fast it can happen with certain people for various reasons. I think you're right. I think because of the, especially as the community grows and the challenges become bigger, a lot of people on the streets are just on the streets, for, I don't want to say whatever reason, for a reason, but not necessarily a mental health reason. And it's such a complicated area to try and understand. And I see us as a society certainly struggling for the answer on how to deal with it. I think this idea of, the police kind of recognizing that they don't have, or maybe all of us recognizing that the police aren't trained in dealing with those, with those kinds of situations. So we need to approach that differently. I think that will make a big difference. The mental health thing, I've had my own little bit of a journey down that area on the anxiety side. My dad's side in particular has always had some struggles with anxiety, and looking back, I clearly also did as I did as well. And then, maybe 2015 or so, it just got to a point where I couldn't just keep pushing it down like I had my entire life. Yeah, so I just noticed, again, whenever that was, maybe 6 years ago, the things that I could have typically pushed down. The way I would manage anxiety was to either avoid a situation that I knew, would not be good for me, or just push it down. And the interesting thing in hindsight was I didn't know I had anxiety, right? Because I only had me as a reference point. Does everybody else feel this way? I didn't know. There's a difference between being nervous and having anxiety. And in hindsight, now I recognize that. But in the moment, I'm thinking, well, I'm just a really nervous guy. But so that happened around 2015, and the way it sort of manifested itself was just in controlling emotion. So I would cry at the weirdest spots, and I would, sort of snap at the weirdest spots. I didn't have a good method to express emotion because I'd spend most of my life trying to suppress the emotions. Just that's how I handled it. And it took me the longest time to accept that I couldn't, control my brain, couldn't control my mind. And it's a funny thing because, if I broke my arm, I certainly wouldn't just put some duct tape on it and carry on. But I knew something wasn't working, but I was going to fix it myself no matter what. And it literally took me, years. I tried a little bit of counseling. I tried some naturopathic kind of things. And it really wasn't until Lauren was going to get married, or she did get married in 2017, May of 2017, that I thought, okay, if you want to actually show up for this event and participate and not just be afraid the whole time that you're going to lose it, you better deal with it, right? And clearly it's Lauren's day, but I'm walking her down the aisle and I'm doing a speech, and her and I had a bit of a goofy dance she wanted to do. And I don't know if you've ever seen the show Friends. They do the one where Monica and Ross do the dance.
Oh yeah. Did you
That's
guys do this?
That's what we did.
Kidding me.
I know. Yeah.
Way to go. I mean,
yeah.
How did you get to that point from feeling like, how the heck am I going to show up to this event and be present, to you're doing the Ross and Monica dance from the Dick Clark show on New Year's Eve?
Mostly it was drugs, to be honest.
Well, if that's what it takes, that's what it takes.
That's always been the sort of push-pull in me. I have that in me, but I could never let it out, the way I wanted to. So anyway, long and short of it was I realized I had to do something. I went to the family doctor, and they were really great. I must say, very understanding and very, I'll just say user-friendly as to, no pressure, whatever, right? They understood it, they got it. And yeah, we tried some different meds, and we found a combination that seemed to work. Didn't make me a zombie, but it took off the peaks and valleys, I guess, which was the point. It was an interesting experience when I first went on them. I was like a zombie the first couple of weeks. Like my pants could have been on fire, and I just wouldn't have cared. It was, and I had days where I just couldn't get out of bed. And I remember, hearing other people saying, "Oh, I can't get out of bed," and I'm like, "Well, move your freaking legs and get out of bed. What's the problem?"
I hear you.
I couldn't.
When we reconnected over Instagram there, my post was, "Hey, this is me. I'm just trying to live my life and do what I do." It was actually a bit of a confessional post because it was the first time I really admitted, like, hey, I took a day job. I no longer am this fun, do whatever I want, be a photographer, work on my own terms, run my own show. I took this day job and these are the reasons why. Hey, P.S., you know what? Like my parents struggled with addiction and mental health their entire lives and I'm their kid. Hey, and you reached out and you were so lovely. And you just said, "Oh, I read your post. It's like great to see your face, blah, blah, blah." I understand, like, I know more about mental health than you might know. And I thought that, I didn't even know what that meant. That could have meant anything, but even that little piece to send somebody in your life or on the outskirts of your life, as I was, a message to say like, I know something about this. That is incredibly brave on its own. Like, how wonderful is that the conversation can open up enough in our society that you're allowed to say that, but also that you are at a place personally where that was something you could say. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I ended up doing, so I got on these drugs and so I take a couple pills a day and it does the trick. I'm not every day is perfect, but I'm the best me I can be at the moment. I would say I don't have the melancholy spells that I had before. I don't sort of have the outbursts or the crying that I would at times for all the wrong reasons at all the wrong times. And it's amazing how humble that can make you when you're sitting there having dinner with someone and they're asking you a question and you can't get the answer out because you're just choked up, right? It's and all they said was, "Do you want ketchup with your fries or something?" So, so we got through the wedding. Everything was great. The dance went fine. The speech went well. There was some emotion in it, which you would expect, but I was able to get through it. There's a difference between, as I said before, nervous and anxiety. Everybody has nerves before they do something a little out of their comfort zone. But if you get to a point of anxiety and you freeze and you can't do it, that should be a little bit of a flag for you. Mm-hmm. So I went back, got back into work and eventually I ended up doing a whole 1 hour talk to the entire company at a company meeting about the journey that I had been through. And it was pretty, it was interesting. It was somewhat cathartic in a way. It was one of the rare times I wasn't really freaked out about public speaking because it was my story and who's going to call me wrong sort of thing. It was my story. Got a nice standing ovation at the end, which meant a lot to me. The really cool part though was I must have had at least a half a dozen people after come up and talk to me about it. Been in the same boat, were sort of embarrassed or ashamed to say anything. All of that normal stuff, right? All of that kind of stuff. So, the idea of trying to get it to be a topic that you can discuss without the same way you would physical health. And I remember at a breakfast I was at, Mindful Mornings, I think, one of the speakers had said their grandmother had taken her own life. And she said, that's the first time I ever heard of anyone dying from a mental health cause as opposed to a physical health cause. And I'd never heard it sort of phrased that way. And Stephen Page was there and he got up, he has some challenges as well. And just talked about some of the things that he was feeling. I'd gone through and on my inside, I'm going like, I'm not the only one. Like, 1 minute you think you can rule the world. The next minute, you're not sure you know how to put your socks on. Right. Mm-hmm. And those swings are huge and
very normal for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the part nobody knows. You think you're in it on your own. And then when someone does take that step, just to open up a little bit, you get this flood back of, I'm, in a similar situation. So that really changed me in a lot of ways for obvious reasons, but as well, then again, back to sort of I give you the longest answers, Marshall, for your questions here. As far as the situation with homeless and mental health and that kind of thing, I think it's part of it, but I just don't think it's something anyone can really understand unless somehow you've lived it or had, say a brother that was homeless or something that you were that close to it. It's just so complicated. And Leanne volunteered at one of the, when they used to have the dinner and you could sleep over in the churches or various places. I forget what they were called. And some of the people, it was the same thing. Some of them were obviously had some mental health challenges, and some of them were just, I don't know if it's down on their luck or, something turned, and all of a sudden, if you're stretched a little thin financially, you lose your job. And the next thing you know, you've got no support system and you're out. And it's just super complicated, but it's not strictly mental health driven. I would agree with you there. And sort of back again to that, it just doesn't have the profile that I think it needs to have. I don't know if it's an embarrassment or what it is, but it's just hard to get people to want to deal with it. And
there's a stigma. There's a society
Sure.
stigma to it for sure. And it's hard to admit to yourself when you're going through something heavy and then trying to admit it to somebody else, or for God's sake, asking for help. Like you said, like as though it's a broken arm.
Oh God, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Just speaking about how homelessness can happen sort of unexpectedly. Of course, that doesn't sound right. Speaking back to homelessness, Marshall, I don't think I've told you this story, but there was one of the times when my mom was in the ER, lots of ER visits for my mom, lots of time in the acute mental health unit in Grand River and St. Joseph's and a couple other places. But there was one specific time where I met my sister there. My sister was there with my mom, and my sister was filling out paperwork, and they wanted to know my mom's address. And it took a minute, and my sister is like, she doesn't have one. It had never occurred to us. She had been couch surfing, staying with one of us. It just hadn't, it had been spiraling for so long that it didn't occur to us that what this intake nurse was about to write on this form was of no fixed address. And my mom was actually literally homeless at this point. She was not living on the streets. There were a few nights where she probably didn't have somewhere to go and wandered or drove or did all that kind of stuff. But had she not had any of the supports that we gave her, that could have been a very different path for her,
Yeah. Whenever I hear that the police are looking for somebody with no fixed address, it always makes me feel incredibly sad.
Well, you just think, in this kind of weather, like, I went around the block and I was cold with a coat and everything, it's tough to imagine being out there on nights like this. And
I didn't go around the block today because I had the option. I was like, that's too cold. I'm not doing it. I'm not going out there. Do you take exercise into your life as part of your mental health care at this point too? Is that something that because you always were active, right? You played racquetball and some other stuff. Is that right?
Yeah. Summers are the best for me. So I golf a lot. I was going to say I've become quite a golfer, but I golf a lot.
I saw you correct, and I thought, oh, that's fantastic.
But I find the fresh air and that time away, is really good for me outside. So a lot of the stuff I've been doing in retirement in the summer, I do golf. Like I golfed about 80 times last year. I've gotten into road cycling, so I rode a lot. I probably rode over 1,000 kilometers last summer. Winters are a little tougher, I will admit. I got to force myself to go out. The fresh air is key. What I'm finding is fresh air is key for me. But I don't like going out in the winter either. But so exercise wise, I have an indoor trainer that I put the bike on. So I do that, and I do a Pilates class once a week online as well. So yeah, exercise it's very important. I think it's very important to keep your, for a bunch of reasons, keep the parts moving as much as anything, but definitely it does something to the brain that mine likes anyway. And it just, I could tell, I golfed till October, and then between October and December, before I sort of had my winter rhythm down, I could tell right away that I just wasn't quite the same. Something was just, it was just off. Right. And, I think exercise is a key part for me. Absolutely. And then just trying to keep your brain active. So we watched, The Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you watched that at all.
Oh yeah.
So I used to play chess a fair amount as a kid. So I found this online chess thing. So I started playing chess again, just online, just for the challenge. And then The guitar, I just
Yeah, what inspired you to start playing guitar?
well, one of the other things I realized as I got older is, so I always wanted to just play the guitar. I didn't want to learn how. I just wanted to play, right? And one of the things that golf taught me is if you don't enjoy the process, you're screwed. Like golf is incredibly hard to master. Same as guitar, it's incredibly hard to become decent at it. So if you don't enjoy that process of learning it, like don't even try, because it just, smash it over your head or something. So I got my head around the process. So I'd always wanted to play, didn't want to learn. So and then we happened to have one. Danielle had an old guitar here, so I just started playing and watched YouTube. Remember, I asked you if you would teach me how to play guitar.
Yeah, and I was like, once I learned, because I've been playing for years, but I'm still learning.
So I started watching some YouTube stuff, and I just picked up a little bit, and then I've kind of become addicted to YouTube over the last few months as well. But that's another story. So it ended up, I'm watching like old MASH reruns and Carol Burnett and Tim Conway.
Oh, that's great stuff.
So I found an online school just like last week, finally in Boston, Lauren Bateman's school, where she's got this 7-step process. And, I like the structure of the way. I've got an engineering background, so the structure of the way the lessons are. And it's just something that I can work at my pace. But it is incredible. I knew it wouldn't be easy, but my gosh, it's hard to learn.
It's hard. Hard on the fingers, right?
It's hard on the fingers. And then I keep hitting the wrong, like I don't know the spacing of the strings, and then trying to change chords. And it's just, but that's the challenge, right? And it is frustrating at times, but that's the challenge I think people need. And for me, that I want to have. So we'll see how long it goes.
So Steve, when it comes to retirement, I've seen it time and again where retirement can often look kind of anticlimactic. The retirement itself, like the last week, the party, whatever it is, how you define, now I'm retired. But I want to ask you about what life looks like in retirement in terms of how you look back on your career. Like you must look back and think this was work really worth doing. And I don't know if you break it down into chapters or how you see it, but is there some incredible gratification that comes with retiring and looking back on a career that was, time well spent and you felt it was meaningful?
Yeah, most definitely. Retirement is a big decision. It took me like 2 years to decide that I was going to retire. And, I had made a mental commitment or a decision way back in my career when I was young that I wanted to do something that at the end of the day, when I did retire, I could look back and, made a difference. For some reason, making a difference to me is a recurring theme, whether it's volunteering or through work or whatever. So by the time I retired, I was very much ready to retire. I got to do it on my terms at my time. And then looking back on my career, it's very satisfying. I got to work with a lot of really great people over the years. I had a lot of really great clients, funny people, incredibly smart people. And I got to work on a lot of really interesting and some very challenging projects that, to me, in their own way, changed the world, whether it was a subdivision or, I did a lot of work on various hospital sites in the last few years. Although I saw in the paper that Xinyi isn't going to go, but I was involved with Xinyi when I flew to Shanghai, which was way out of my comfort zone. 4 of us flew over there and did a presentation, won the job, and came back. So, I had enough highlights in my career that I wouldn't have changed anything. I was very happy with my career at the end of the day. What I found as I got a little bit older was I probably 2 things. I lost a little bit of patience for process. Like, why can't I just do this? Why do I have to fill out this form? That sort of stuff. And I also lost, I wouldn't say lost. I didn't need the same sort of adrenaline rush that I seemed to need when I was younger, like always on the go and just needed to be doing something. I changed either companies or jobs within a company probably every 5 years. I rearranged where I sat every year. Just I needed that change. And as I got towards the end, I'd come home on a weekend and I'd clean the barbecue and sweep out the garage, and I felt good. That was a good day. I didn't need any other bigger rush. So I had done that part. And then honestly doing the sort of the company meeting where I talked about mental health, that was probably if not one of the best, most satisfying things I did. It's pretty much near the top, just to be able to share that. And that's there's a fair bit amount, behind that, whether it's just the emotional part of doing that, the, if you want to call it courage to stand up and, and talk about it. I hate public speaking. I always have. And I've gotten better at it over the years because I've had to do it in a number of different situations. And I think then dealing with the anxiety helped that a little bit as well. So that's probably one of the highlights. So by the time I got to the end, I was quite satisfied with everything I had done, and I was quite ready to retire. And, in retirement itself, there's no doubt it's slower pace, and that's fine. It takes, I sleep in a little more. I get, I take my time getting into the day, and doing what you want when you want, that sort of thing. But it's been satisfying as well. I've spent a lot of time on Rotary this year, just because I can. And as I said, the golfing and exercising. And so just doing the things that I want to do, and being in a mindset where I can enjoy them because I'm satisfied with that first part of my life. The one thing I've always, this a bit of a tangent, but I've always admired about Wayne Gretzky was, he played hockey and then he stopped. And none of this come back for another try again, or, he was happy with what he did and he moved on. And that, that was it for him. He hasn't skated or played hockey in years since then. So I was quite clear at the office. I said, I'm not sort of a social butterfly. I don't go back and visit. I can't now anyway, but I don't go back and visit. I'm not a big people person, to be honest with you. This whole pandemic's been all right with me for most part. Mind you, it's wearing a little thin now, but and that's just the way I am. That part of my life is over, and I'm ready to move on to the next part, and I'm very satisfied with it. The thing I said on my going away party was just that if you're younger, throw yourself out to the point where you are retiring and you're looking back, and are you satisfied with what you've done? Did you make the difference you wanted to? And did you, trust your instincts and take some risks if that's who you are or not, right? So yeah, it's a good question, but for me, it worked out quite well.
Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.